this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois. And with me is my guest, Krys Copeland. Hi,
Hi,
Krys.
good to be back.
And today we are going to talk about Corellian publishing.
Yeah,
And of course, this is Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments on whatever platform you may be watching on. They'll show up here in our chat room and we can all talk directly. But meanwhile, we'll tell you what's new at Corellian Publishing.
yes, I'm actually really excited because we still have some of the illustration investiture merchandise still available on the website. So everyone be sure to check that out. And Lustration just happened this past weekend. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there in person because I'm in the Netherlands. But I heard it was an amazing time for everybody who did go, and much enjoyed by all. So I'm very curious as to how what your thoughts are coming off of Lustration, how you felt about the experience, what you're hoping to see in the future, maybe.
It was very interesting because, of course, this is the seating of a new administration, and by Sunday I was in a position to simply enjoy the event, which is not something I'm normally in a position to do. So that was quite enjoyable. Um, Interesting to be part of the lustration ceremony without being running the lustration ceremony. And hello to Janet in the chat room. It's good to see you.
Hi, Janet.
It was a lovely weekend. It was a lot of fun. Great to see so many people from so many years. We had people coming to their first lustration, in some cases for like 2 decades, but who have been with us that long. Um, we had the Reverend Dr. Sir Zach Parker, who came to his first lustration since 2007, I think it was, because he's been living in the United Kingdom all these years and only recently returned to the U.S. We had people like Maggie de la Yata and Susan Dancing Star, who we have been associated with for decades, as well as people who have been at many lustrations over the years and people who are attending their very first one ever. It was great fun. It was like all lustration weekends. It was very hectic. It was in places unpredictable. And of course, we live streamed all of the major ritual components. So if you're following Corellian TV, you got to see them. The only place where that did not work was the investiture itself. The energy was a little too strong for the camera, apparently.
Oh,
And it shut down literally as the ceremony was beginning. But we did capture it for archival footage, and we'll be putting that up. And there were lots of photographs, so if you weren't able to be there, you were able to take part vicariously. And one of the reasons, well, we always take photographs. Corellians are notorious for photographs. And the joke was made repeatedly over the weekend, photos or it didn't happen, as they like to say. And I pointed out, yeah, this is why we do this. Years and years ago, when I came to Chicago, I found that a lot of people um, didn't necessarily believe things I'd done in the preceding 10 years when I was in the pagan press and working with those people because there were no photos. I had never been one for photographing myself. And so I'd been places and done things. And, I often talk about how I was in Washington when the Helms Amendment was voted down. But there are no photos of that. There are not even any photos of that trip because it didn't seem to me to be important then. But I learned how important photos were, and now we always take them. The Corellian photo op is notorious. Do not take your robes off until after we've gotten all the photos. But in this particular illustration, there was a particularly important reason for getting photos, and that is that a new Corellian regalia book is being prepared, which will be coming out through Corellian Publishing. And there was a need for photos of, in some cases, new regalia, and in some cases, just fresh photos. There are a number of books being discussed among the various Corellian grandees for the future, of which the first, I believe, will be regalia.
That's wonderful to hear. And if they need any help with that, then I'm really happy to assist on with any of those projects.
And a little farther down will probably be the Corellian Heraldry book, which has been in the process for years, but since the Grand Herald of the tradition is now the first priestess, it may be a lot slower coming to fruition. And hello to Antonio in the chat room, and Antonio was with us at Lustration. We had a wonderful chance to visit in person, and
Hi, Antonio.
that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Antonio did the despacho ceremony, and I have to tell you, every time the despachos were anywhere near the camera, the camera was overwhelmed with energy. They were very powerful, and they became an offering that was deposited into the Vermilion River.
Wonderful. That's amazing.
So that was Lustration weekend.
It sounds like everyone had a wonderful time.
Yes, indeed. And Antonio says it was a fantastic weekend. And my joke has been I've been looking at the photos and trying to figure out who I'm looking at in the photos, because I look so different than I used to look, which is a very interesting experience.
We do change a lot over the years. Yeah,
we do.
Yes. What you mentioned about photographs and how it has become, very commonplace to just photograph everything that we do, even if it's only stored in like our Google Photos or something like that on your phone. Now it's just become such a part of our culture to do that. It's actually made some of our book projects easier, because we've been able to go back and pull photos from different activities that whoever was writing the book was doing at that time, and include those in the final product. So if you're out there and you're looking to write your own memoir, check out your own social media, especially over the past, it's now about 20 years since social media really hit the scene, or a little bit longer. But yeah, in recent years, since everything is every day, you can find a gold mine. You might have to go through a lot of like different random photos as well, but you'll definitely find some good ones for your projects.
We want to say hello to Mary Hawk in the chat room.
Hi, Mary.
And Mary was with us during Lustration and was doing all the filming.
Oh, awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing some of that. I have been a bit stressed and working a bit extra this week. Many of you in the chat probably have spoken with or have talked to before Maureen, who helps us with scheduling both with Corellian publishing activities and speak your own book activities. And unfortunately, her father passed away quite suddenly last week. And so it was very important for us that she go and be with her family during this time and not worry about anything with work. And we're also realizing at the same time just how much Maureen does for us.
Yes.
So, this is her time for mourning and for fulfilling her father's final wishes. So we just wish her peace during that time.
Absolutely.
For some happier topics this week, I was finally able to start going through the rough draft for your book of numerology, Rev Don. So I'm very excited for that. We also have a new cover up on the website, which you designed.
Yep.
And then I did some polishing off on the text and the wording at the end. But I'm very curious if you could, I'll show everyone the image, and maybe you could talk us through how you decided on this particular image.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me just pull that up here. It actually has the wrong title still on it from the old one. But yeah, take a look at this one here, everyone. And Reverend Don, can you just kind of walk us through what your thoughts were with this? I think we used this, the color combination from a poll we did in the chat.
Yeah, people had suggested various color combinations, and the idea of green and silver, I believe, was suggested, and this kind of took off from that. And if you'll notice at the center of the cover is the tetractys. And if you don't know what the tetractys is, then you want to order the book. If you've been through the Correllian second degree training, then you will know what the tetractys is. And the tetractys comes out of Pythagorean numerology. And it is basically a recapitulation of Pythagorean cosmology. And it's one of the things that makes that symbol of the triangle so important in metaphysics. And hello to Martin in the chat room. It's good to see you, Martin.
Hi, Martin.
So that's why I chose it. I thought it was perhaps the best single image for numerology, because particularly from a Pythagorean point of view, it speaks to everything all at once. And it speaks to the relationship between the numbers. It speaks to the nature of the numbers themselves. It speaks to the nature of divinity and incarnation if you know all of the parts of it. So that's why we've got the tetractys on the front. And we go through and talk about the different numbers that you see there, why they're there and what they mean. And in Pythagoreanism, and the kind of numerology that I practice is effectively Pythagorean, or at least descended from Pythagorean numerology. Number is considered the key to understanding everything. I would add to that, from a Wiccan perspective, correspondence is the means through which that occurs. Every number corresponds to a great number of ideas that are expressed in this symbol. So that's why I chose it for the cover, but inside the book we also talk about how you use this for divination, how you can use it for character analysis, not just cosmic understanding, but that's there too. And I suppose it's typical of me that I chose cosmic understanding to be the thing to go on the cover. We also are going to talk at some length about different systems of numerology, not just the one that I normally use. And one of the things I try to do in my books is not just talk about my own practice, but other things you might encounter. Not necessarily giving them equal time, because I can't really speak to things as thoroughly that are not my particular path, but at least letting you know they're there and giving you an idea of them so you can go study for yourself if you are more attracted, for example, to Hebrew numerology, or to other systems that we will talk about. So that's kind of where it came from. Now, if you're interested in ordering the book, it is available for pre-order with an ETA of June 21st.
Yes, I'll go ahead and share that on the website as well. If you just go to the website, CorrellianPublishing.com, you can type in numerology, and we have both the paperback version as well as the numerology ebook. And if you'd like to get the numerology cards with that, we also still have, I think, a few of those available. But not many. So if you do want those, try to order those quickly. Of course, the ebook and the paperback, both of those are available. You'll see the pricing in euros on my screen, but the pricing in USD is $19.99 for the paperback, and the ebook is $9.99.
And again, the numerology cards, there are a few of them still here, but they will be out of stock quickly. So be warned. But we do plan to bring them back in the future as well.
Yes, it's my goal to start working next on getting some of our other products available for an e-download. So, you can print locally the numerology cards, and that way you're also supporting a local business while still supporting the Correllian tradition and the elders of our tradition as well.
And we want to say hello to Rev Eric in the chat room. It's good to see you, Eric.
Hi, Reverend Eric. Good to see you. And I also heard that you recently got married during or shortly after the lustration ceremony. So congratulations.
Yes, indeed. We hope you're having a wonderful, I guess we'd say honeymoon. I know there are a lot of things going on. So we certainly are hoping for everything to work out well for for you and for Arlene.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
wonderful to see the two of you come together and to preside over the ceremony. Um,
I'm hoping some of that was caught on film too.
oh, it was. It was. It's up.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'll be looking for that after our chat today.
Oh, and
Yeah.
hello to Mary Cavalcante in the chat room, who was also at Lustration.
Hi, Mary.
It was wonderful to
Good
see
to have you.
Mary.
Yeah.
Going back to the numerology cards for just a moment,
Oh, yes, I'll switch
they're
over.
actually one of my favorite card creations that I've done. And I've had some people say that some other people say the same. They're meant to be stained glass windows, and they were a lot of fun to do. And one of the reasons I chose to do it that way is I thought it was probably the simplest way to illustrate the numbers and their planetary connections, rather than like trying to do a scene of some kind. But I think the color is pretty good for evoking the character of the numbers. And things like why certain colors are chosen here will probably be discussed somewhere in the book. I mean, we're still working on the book, but each case has a particular choice of color because of the planetary association of the number. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And I'm really thrilled about the numerology book itself. I actually want to give everyone a bit of a sneak peek.
Hmm.
The chapter one is just a general overview of a lot of different parts of numerology, not going into a deep dive on anything at that point early on. It's just, kind of a 101 to numerology. So a great place to start to give you just kind of an overview, help you learn the language around numerology and all of those things. Then when we get to chapter two, I think that's really where the fun starts happening, because I'm as I'm reading through this, I see not just information on Pythagorean system. As you mentioned, we're covering a lot of the history of numerology from all over the world, throughout ancient times and across our planet. People were already fascinated by numbers and by math, and using it to help them create decisions and meaning within their lives. So there's a great overview in here of ancient Egypt and Babylon. Babylon in particular was very fascinating because it doesn't use a base 10 system
Hmm.
like our modern day system. Instead, it uses a base 60 system. I remember in school barely learning a bit about base 2 and base 6, so I cannot even imagine how complex a base 60 system must be. But I found it was a great overview in the book of just general information about the Babylonian and Egyptian systems and the meanings that they assigned to
Hmm.
numbers. And how what was interesting is how many of the cultures often overlapped on at least a few of the meanings for different numbers.
Hmm.
Not always, not everywhere, but there was shockingly a large amount of overlap between the different number interpretations across the
Yes.
world.
We want to
So,
say hello to Jeremiah in the chat room. Hello, Jeremiah.
hi Jeremiah, welcome to the conversation. Please let us know if you have any questions in the chat on numerology. So, Reverend Don, my question for you on this is, why was it really important for you to kind of bring in all of these other systems, if your focus is primarily on the Pythagorean system? How does it benefit a new person learning numerology to learn the all of these other systems at the same time, or at least dabble in all of these other systems at the same time?
Well, I actually was remarking on this, the answer to this, yesterday in a different context. But one of the things that I dislike about a lot of the books that you can get in metaphysics is that they speak only about the particular path of the author and give the impression it's the only way things can be done. I'm very much aware that I do things in a certain way, and of course that's what I'm going to write about. But I also know that there are many other ways to do it. And I would hate to have someone think that the way that I do it is the only way to do it. I also am a Gemini, and I have always loved studying broadly these different things. So for me, it was fascinating um, learning the various different forms of numerology, as well as the one that I particularly use. I mean, for me, questions like why do we have 60 minutes an hour, which we've just answered, um, it's the ancient Mesopotamians, and it's just gotten pushed over and pushed over. But when you think about it without knowing that, it makes no sense. Um, why do we have 7 days in a week? It has to do with planetary rulership and very ancient ideas based on that. And to me, the whole idea is to learn as much as you can, not just to learn a little bit. And of course you're going to focus on certain things. That's natural. You can't do it all, but it doesn't hurt to have reference to it all. And like I was saying earlier, you may find Pythagorean numerology isn't for you. One of the things about the second degree, and by the way, if you don't have your second degree book, you can get that through CorellianPublishing.com as well. And hello to Black Crystal in the chat room. It's good to see you.
Hello, Black Crystal.
But we talk about so many different skills in second degree, not because we think every second degree um, priesthood should know all of these different things and use them, but because we know that each person who becomes second degree will want, well, one, they need to have the knowledge, even if it's not something they're doing, so that they can speak to it if they need to. But also, I mean, it's not uncommon for each person to find one thing that speaks specifically to them. And a lot of people did find numerology spoke specifically to them, especially among the priesthood who were involved in things like accounting as their daily lives. Numbers were their thing. Of course, they loved numerology. Other people loved the astrology. Other people loved the energy working. And it takes all of these different things to make a world, as they say. And so when we look at just the numerology itself, looking at all these different things, it answers questions that you may have wondered about for years, of where certain things come from, or that you may never have thought of. And I think that people will find it very interesting as well as educational.
Yeah, I definitely am finding it quite fascinating to learn about the other systems. You even go into detail about how to look at the Hebrew, the Kabbalistic system with the
Mhm.
Hebrew alphabet. That's really fascinating as well, just a deep dive into each one of those areas, with some tips for how to, one, begin your learning through the book, but also
Mhm.
continue learning outside of that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I love about this one. And it really was fascinating for me to learn as, in particular, as a pagan, but also as a pagan atheist, how connected these systems are. The Vedic system, in particular, is actually
Mhm.
quite similar to the Pythagorean system.
Yeah.
Um, but there is this added extra nuance from Sanskrit in it
Yeah.
as well. So it's just super fascinating.
Well,
Um,
people don't realize how connected many of these people were. And I was talking one day about chakras here on Midday, and pointing out the ancient Greeks wrote about chakras. They knew about them. They worked with them. There may be much more literature lost on the subject than what has come down, but why wouldn't they? They were in direct communication with India. They had trading. There were Greco-Indian nations that existed at that time, and Hellenistic culture and Indian culture in places were fused. In other places, they influenced each other. And most people don't know. They don't remember that. The reason that images of the Buddha look the way they do is how strongly they were influenced by Hellenistic art. um, and that and it's something that if you're not aware of those Hellenistic, I guess we'd say Helleno-Indian kingdoms of the past, mostly in what is now Afghanistan, you wouldn't know where that influence comes from. And that again is part of why I try to have such a wide reference for things. So you have a clue that that yeah, people were sharing a lot more. One of the things I don't like about the current era is that there's um, a lot of opposition to the idea of shared beliefs. A lot of we must keep our carrots separate from the corn, and separate from the peas, and that is one not very historical, and in my opinion, not very satisfying. Um, I think that it's a very limited point of view.
Yeah.
Um, appropriate in
That's even
certain
true
places.
in agriculture, actually, because
Yeah.
when we mix different plants together, then they have a tendency to grow stronger than if
Yes.
we separated them. Like the three sisters from many Native American tribes
Hmm.
was corn, squash, and beans, and together they would reintroduce the nitrogen cycle or refeed the nitrogen cycle.
And we see this in culture as well. So I'm a great opponent of ideas of, quote, pure race or pure culture. Historically, um, cultures are more vibrant and stronger when there is a lot of mixing. I mean, when we look back at the Hellenistic era, which was a mixture of all of the cultures of what we would call the Near East, it was a huge cultural renaissance for everyone involved. Um, and time and again, we see that when people come together, when they share their ideas, they're better off. And yet, this ridiculous idea of purity keeps coming back. Um, I think basically out of fear on the part of certain people that um, I guess fear of elimination.
Hmm.
But the truth is that one is not eliminated; one is only expanded. And you know, when we talk about metaphysics, when we talk about the idea of reunion with deity, for example, we come to that same idea. Reunion with deity is not the extinguishment of the self, but the expansion of the self. But it takes some thought for some people to get that. And Jeremiah says, "I love researching this stuff. That's wonderful. I do too."
Yes, absolutely. And some of the things that you're touching on regarding this with purity of systems and this. And instead, we need to kind of mix and explore the systems. Is actually something that matches right up with what I'm working on in the pagan atheism book, Nature's Rational Spirit. I can switch over to that very quickly here.
Yes.
Yeah, and just kind of show you everything is ready to go on this. So if you've already ordered through the website, great. Your order will be sent out on the 31st of this month. If you are haven't ordered yet, you can order either through the website at CorellianPublishing.com or on Amazon. And some of the same places that you touch on in numerology are some of the same places that I look to for information regarding the history of pagan atheism throughout time. And also, this idea that um, paganism in general, atheism in general, and even pagan atheism together are these collections of different ideas, different thoughts over the course of human history, everything from ancient times all the way through to like quantum mechanics and theory of relativity, and also that we all need to remember that we're human. So there's
Mm.
no such thing as purity of cultures. All cultures are human cultures,
Yes.
and they all belong to us. With respect, no cultural appropriation. I'm not by any means not suggesting we should appropriate cultures, but we should definitely respectfully participate when available, when the option arises.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, I see we've come to the end of our half hour. So if you're interested in Reverend Don's Book of Astrology, I believe it is live at CorellianPublishing.com now. If you're interested in any of our books, they're live there now. So uh, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Krys.
Thank you for having
I
me.
know you have your hands very full with all that's happening there.
Yes, well, we'll make it through, and the most important thing is that Maureen gets this time that she needs to rest and deal with things going on at home.
Yes, indeed. So thank you, everyone, and let us close with our prayer as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and thanks for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to help us to always continue learning and better understanding the universe that we are in. Help us to see the messages that you send us, and help us to constantly expand our consciousness as we go forward in life. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love, and from respect, still knowing you are always with us, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And may you be blessed now and always, and we'll see you again tomorrow.